Well, good morning to today's Real Talk. Working on an interesting project right now that is a good balance of ambition versus reality and what's actually possible. And the thing that's going on in this specific project isn't so much the budget that's a problem. Obviously, there could always be more budget, and that would be fun, but that's not the point.
Sure.
It's more timeline. It's a week and a half to do a very
okay.
heavy VFX project.
Time frame is a...
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And so it's a very rushed project, and obviously quality cannot be compromised. So when you come up with this idea, or when the director came to me with this idea, he presented me with this very big dream. This is what I want to do, and it was my responsibility to tell him, could I do that for him or not in the time frame. Thankfully, the project's ongoing currently, so it's not done. So we'll see if I finish it. No, it'll get finished. But
yeah,
no, I'm not worried about it. That's the thing. Like I said, yes, I could do it, and I'm not worried about doing it, knowing where the ambition level was on this project,
okay,
and where the time restrictions are. And so I thought today in our conversation we could talk about how do we manage that. How do we go about sometimes bringing us back down to earth, or if we're okay with going outside of Earth's boundaries and doing something large, how do we? What do we do when it comes time to tell someone yes or no on a project like that is overly ambitious?
Yeah. That's a good question, because I feel like you can get overly ambitious in many different areas.
Right.
Obviously, I think, you talked about time frame already, and I think budget, it can be a reality that doesn't allow you to be as ambitious as maybe you had wanted to be. But also sometimes our own creative gets in the way. Like, we want to be more ambitious than what either time or anything allows us to be.
Yeah, I find a lot of times when it comes down to the ambition of our creative, the limiting factor, probably 9 times out of 10, is the time frame, the schedule.
It's usually time frame where it's just like, if we took, yes, we could do that.
Right.
But our client is also banking on the fact that we're going to get this into them on time.
And that's for client projects.
Right.
But we're working on some shorts that have taken a long time.
Yeah.
But now seeing them getting closer and closer to the finish line, we're seeing clearly how absolutely ambitious they are.
Right.
For 2 guys to be trying to create films like these.
Right.
And when you have full 2-minute matte paintings that you have to do, and
Yeah.
And visual effects out. Well, I won't say anything crass, but a large amount of visual effects that need to be done, and you don't have a crew or a team to do it. It's like, well, as long as time isn't in our way, we have the ability to be that ambitious with our films.
Right.
I think that was always one of the things that was interesting in film school. You'd submit a script, and that was always the first note from our teachers. This is a very ambitious script.
Yeah.
And they always framed it in a negative connotation.
Right.
There was never any, once they said that was like the death nail. There was never any avenue or highway to get the film made. It was like, this is too ambitious.
Yeah, it's
you
either, you're going to I guess you're just going to continue doing it ambitious, or you're going to,
they would,
different.
I mean, in film school, they would tell us we couldn't do it because it was too ambitious.
Sure.
That was, and then there was a lot of I know your film specifically that you created while we were there. That was an extremely ambitious film,
mm-hmm.
and yeah, it required a lot of assets and a lot of time and energy. Mm-hmm. But had you had a force behind you, rearing you, saying this is going to be great, you got to keep putting more and more time on this, and they would have been pouring that energy into you, I think your film would have been 100 times better than it turned out being.
Right.
And we saw that. Once we could take the time after we graduated school and we re-edited that film, we saw the potential it actually had.
Right.
But at the time, everyone was just telling you it couldn't be done.
Couldn't be done. Yeah. I mean, up until, like when I was filming it and editing it, it was just like, it's just too much, man. It's just too much. And I'm like, I mean, that's an interesting topic in and of itself, is like,
Well, I mean, it was too much for the time frame. we had 6 weeks or something.
Yeah.
To turn them around.
A short amount of time.
And your film was a 25-minute short.
Yeah.
So it was, yeah. But also your team wasn't built correctly.
Right.
And so your ambition wasn't met with the right execution.
Yeah.
I think people should try to be as ambitious as they want to be.
Yeah, totally.
On anything.
Yeah.
I mean, we do it all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not of like the mindset that's like, well, just play it safe because your time frame. It's like,
yeah.
We do like to push the boundaries of stuff. You do got to know, I think the healthy balance is that you do got to know your limits to some extent, as far as like, we've gotten in situations where we're like, oh, okay, well, we could do this really cool effect that would add a little bit to it. The plugin or whatever insert thing here costs $2,000. No, like we don't, like that's,
I mean, and that just comes down to how much you believe in your how much you believe in your idea.
Sure.
That when it comes down to that, for me at least, when it comes down to, do I want to invest my own money to do this something? It usually comes down to how much do I actually believe in this idea.
Yeah, and it's sometimes not even like
that's not
necessarily like a belief, but like how much will that actually help this?
Well, that's
thing?
a belief.
Sure.
Because like I would argue that even if it adds 0.25% of value to the end product, if you believe in it enough, that it's still valuable because you're going to take something valuable away from that. You're going to learn from it. You're going to take that that knowledge to the next project. Whereas if you don't do it and you let that fear or that hindrance of how much value, that it didn't give me a 3% return, so it wasn't worth it.
Sure.
That's a poor way to look at creative.
Sure.
In my opinion. And so like now, obviously, if you don't have the money in the account to buy it, then obviously, yes, you don't go in debt to be like, well, I'm gonna put it on my credit card and I'll figure out how to pay it off. That doesn't make sense. But if you have the opportunity to apply it, or if it makes your the end product better, and better could be many things. Higher quality, you get the project done with the same quality, but get it done faster. You got to look at those things when talking about that ambition side and saying, all right, well, we want to do this. Does it actually add a lot of value?
Yeah.
If the answer is yes, even marginally, then you got to look at the realization of it.
Yeah.
What is it going to cost us to do this? And I think like budget is one of the things that a lot of times when our clients come to us, budget and timeline are what forces us to pull the reins back on the creative approach.
Sure. I mean, ultimately, that is done to protect everyone, everyone's interest. It's like,
absolutely.
Well, if you let it just get bloated and be this huge thing that it can't be,
right?
The client's not going to get the as good of a product as they could in the end, because we're going to be getting stretched thin, or we're not going to have the assets, or something is going to not be there that we need.
Right. It's all about building. Your film school, your film school is a good example of like, yeah, you might want to do that, but do we actually have the resources or team to make it happen?
Right.
And that even comes down into scenarios where when bidding for projects, we have to look at it and say, is this too ambitious for our capabilities right now?
Yeah. And, and we have lost projects because of that.
And we've not bid on projects because of that.
Yeah. Or it was a project that, our price was going to be too high because it was like, well, with
for
our
us to do this,
right, with our resources here at our shop,
right,
like we're going to have to get overtime going. We might have to buy a new machine. Like
we're going to have to hire, we're going to have to have some some employees, part-time employees working for us to get this project done in the time frame you need it done.
Yeah, we just weren't set up to do it in the time frame.
And I think that's a really honest thing that a lot of companies, like, yes, you want to say yes to every opportunity, but I think it's better if you say no to almost all opportunities. and say yes to the ones that really allow you to excel at what you do best. And I think that's a newer thought and practice here at this company, which I'm excited to see, because your ambition can run you ragged. It can just drive you off a cliff if you leave it unchecked.
Right. So, I mean, we're seeing that with some of the short films that we shot. And not that I'm upset that they're ambitious and we don't really have a time frame that we need to, meet for them. I mean, it's kind of just, well, when it's done, it's done. Nobody's waiting for it on the other end. But it has, I think, hindered the time frame of getting it done in an appropriate amount of time.
Yeah, but that was, a lot of that, like a good pushback on that in any creative conversation, not just between you and me right now, but in general, you got to ask yourself, is that the goal, to get it done? Right?
I mean, yes, to a point.
But no, but what I mean is you got to ask yourself that question. Like, if I got this done, or when I get this done, what does success look like? And I think you got to look at your timeline there, and you have to be honest about it. And you say, well, if I want to do it this way, and I have all these creative ideas, and they're very ambitious, and I have to throw 50% of them away to just get the movie done, well, was it worth even doing in the first place?
Right.
I think, with our short films, the ambition, because like you said, no one's waiting. There isn't a paycheck hanging over our heads.
Yeah,
or,
right.
It isn't make or break if they never see the light of day. I mean, it's not fair to the crew and the cast and everyone involved in making the film to not finish the project. But at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world if it doesn't get done. So then you do have the freedom to stop and ask yourself, all right, is this worth throwing this shot away because it's going to delay the release of this film a month or 2 months?
Right.
It's like, well, really, I mean, is your goal just to release it, or is your goal to release it how you wanted it?
Right.
And I think, that's another thing. Like, yes, you got to be careful of saying yes to your ambition all the time.
Right.
But you also have to think very critically and say, if I say no, what am I sacrificing? And will that affect me negatively with the final outcome? Because I would argue it's a greater waste of time just to rush through something to get it done.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can't do that. So with client projects, so you have to be cognizant of that at the beginning, and you have to say, well, we only have this much time, so let's create things within that time parameter. And as time goes on, as a creative, you learn what can fit within 2 weeks shooting schedule, around 5 weeks, a month, 3 months. Like, you learn those things.
And I think ultimately that's kind of what it boils down to, because, is knowing what can be accomplished within a certain time frame. And if you want to hit that, then knowing what you have to do and what resources you have to pull on to get that objective done.
And that's, like you said, that's ultimately the most important thing. And in any balance, I know the other side to it, when you're early on talking to the client, like knowing what you just said, you have to also find the discipline and the strength and the ability to rein the client in.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Right.
At our company, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Because as professionals, it's our job to be the experts at the table, to share our wisdom of what we've learned over the years with our clients, be good stewards of their time and their money, and make them a good product. And part of that is reining them in. Yeah. So when they come in with their eyes aglow, I'm going to do this.
Because they're going to, and that's good. Like, don't get mad that they came in and have like all these wild... Don't get mad that they came in with all these wild ideas, because like, well, they're excited about their project, and they don't know the video world. They don't do this every day, That's okay.
Don't get mad when they come in with all these ideas, but also understand that they might get mad and misinterpret your intentions when you are pulling them back. And that's where I mean you have to build a discipline and a process to reining a client in.
Yeah.
So that they can fully understand. With a lot of businesses, you probably spend more than half your time educating your client.
Right.
And not because they're dumb, just because they're genuinely ignorant. They're not they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And that's where you got to come in on that and help them understand so that it all makes sense for them.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know if that really answered the question.
Kind of did. I mean, it did.
Okay.
Because it talked about, we talked about time frame and we talked about budget, and then I think it's good that we hit a little bit on, projects that don't have an end, because as far as getting them done, the goal is to get them done and release them,
right?
But to be the creative that you want to release.
Yeah.
So there is this balancing act of making sure that the things that you're doing are moving towards that, and not taking steps backwards. You're not sitting in an edit session saying okay, so I know that our film has been locked for 3 months, but get this, I want to totally re-engineer it. And it's but okay.
But we've done that.
No, not since we locked it.
No, that's not true. Our Western, we locked it. We went back and changed the lock edit because it sucked. Because there were problems with it. We
did change it here.
So
I'm going to extremes in this scenario.
But I mean, that's kind of where it's I think you got to look at it and say, okay, yes, we have to get it done, but you also have to look at it objectively and say, is what we are going to release in its form honoring everybody's contribution?
Sure.
Or is the possibility to make it more? And this kind of goes back on the earlier talk about finished, not perfect.
Right.
But there is a threshold, in my opinion, on all projects where I have to be able to look at it and say, it's not perfect, but it's pretty dang close to perfect.
Right. Yes, you should be happy with it.
I think you should be more than happy.
Yeah, right.
I think you should be, if you're deciding to release a film, I don't think you should have that aching gnaw in your stomach saying, yes, this is great, all except for this one shot.
Yeah, and I hate it, and I want it gone.
Exactly.
Release it. No.
You should go back, regardless if it's locked picture or not, regardless if you're breaking the rules. Yeah. You should change it to make it perfect for you. That's one rule that that I have is, if I don't like something, make me like it or come up with a new idea.
Yeah.
Or change it.
Yeah.
Right? And that's not to be stubborn, it is stubborn, I guess. That's not to be a jerk.
There you go.
It's more to be it's more to help satisfy my call as a creative.
Yeah.
To see it the way I want to see it.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know. I think, apparently Johnny Depp's never seen any of his films.
No, that's true. I think he saw one. I don't remember which one, but.
And maybe that's because he would be like me. He would see all the faults in it.
Yeah.
When everyone else around him is laughing.
Right.
Maybe he knows that, and he's like, so I just can't watch it.
Yeah.
I don't know his reasoning behind it.
I just got to keep bringing my creative to it, and I can't watch them because I'm going to try to tweak it to, fit next time or something. I don't know. Yeah.
But to me, that would be so unsatisfying.
Yeah, right.
I need to see my film the way I want to see it, and then I want to be able to see how other people react to it.
Yeah.
Because that tells me if they react positively or negatively. That's an objective truth of they either like it or they don't.
Right.
Whereas if I just release it and I'm not even happy, what am I going to do? Someone's like, hey, your film sucked. I'd be like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know. I didn't see it.
or yeah, I know. I hated all of this. And they're like, what are they going to do? They're going to be like, then why did you release it? And you'd be like, well, because I had to get it done.
Yeah.
So there's that weird balance.
It's a balancing act, and I think, I think that ambitions and realities plays a big part of it.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Be ambitious, but
be realistic.
Be
also.
realistic.
Yeah.
But don't let that realism kill your ambition.
But
oh gosh, we're in a logic loop. Oh boy. So anyway, that's it for this Real Talk. I thought it was an interesting conversation about how to balance your ambition versus your reality. I'd love to know a little bit more about maybe how you react when someone tells you something's not possible and what steps you take to actually see your dream come true. So leave them in the comments down below. And as always, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.